Africa is the world's biggest sleeping giant. The term sleeping giant has been used to describe many countries and regions around the world, but arguably no place fits this description better than Africa. Despite its staggering population of over 1.5 billion people, endless natural resources, and pivotal geopolitical location, Africa remains a relatively minor player on the global stage. However, this could change dramatically if Africa were to unite under one single government. If this were to happen, Africa would become the world's biggest threat. And there are several reasons for this. In this video, we're going to take a look at what will happen if Africa unites, so make sure to watch until the end. Also, please don't forget to subscribe, so that you won't miss out on more interesting videos. What if all of Africa was one country? The idea of Africa uniting into one single country is often discussed by African leaders and intellectuals. It can be traced back to early Pan-African thinkers such as Edward Wilmot Blyden, who advocated for African unity as early as the late 19th century. For instance, he stated that Africa is potentially the greatest power the world has ever seen. In the 20th century, Kwame Nkrumah, the first Prime Minister of Ghana, was a leading figure in the movement for African unity. He famously said, "We must aim at nothing less than the complete liberation of our continent from all vestiges of colonialism and imperialism." One of his most famous quotes is, "We, the people of Africa, declare our entschlossenheit to the achievement of a united and integrated Africa, a rebirth of Africa on the map of the world." But despite these calls for unity, it seems unlikely that Africa will unite anytime soon. There are just too many differences between the 54 African nations. But what if they did unite? What if all 54 African countries suddenly became one single country overnight? This hypothetical scenario presents an intriguing question. How would the global balance of power shift if Africa were to present itself as one unified entity on the international stage, rather than 54 separate countries? A look at Africa's population to truly grasp the implications of a unified Africa. Let's begin with its population. According to estimates from the United Nations, Africa's population has reached 1.5 billion. This makes it the second most populous continent globally, following Asia. Notably, Africa's population growth rate is among the highest worldwide, projected to double in just 3 decades. By 2050, Africa will likely have around 2.5 billion people, making it home to nearly 1/3 of the planet's population. Should Africa unite, this would mean having the world's most significant demographic asset, a massive, youthful population that could drive economic growth if given the right opportunities. Such a large labor force could easily propel it to the top of the global economy within a few decades. However, managing such a large population, especially without robust infrastructure and services in many regions, could pose significant challenges. The continent faces issues such as limited access to quality education, insufficient healthcare facilities, and widespread poverty, all of which could hinder its progress if not addressed effectively. Africa's vast natural resources. Africa is richly endowed with a multitude of natural resources. From gold and diamonds to oil and uranium, the continent boasts substantial reserves that could fuel industrialization and economic expansion. If harnessed sustainably, these resources could transform Africa into a global powerhouse. Unified Africa could leverage its resource wealth to meet the needs of its citizens and fund large-scale development projects, potentially emerging as a dominant force in various industries. However, effectively managing and distributing these resources while ensuring transparency and preventing corruption would be crucial for the success of a unified African state. Furthermore, over-reliance on natural resources could pose risks if global demand or prices were to fluctuate. Strategic location and trade routes. Africa's strategic location is another factor that could contribute to its rise as a global power. The continent strategically positioned along major maritime routes connecting Europe, Asia, and the Americas, offering a central hub for global trade. If Africa were unified, it could enhance its role in international commerce, potentially becoming a hub for shipping, logistics, and transportation. Controlling these strategic routes could give Africa significant leverage in global trade networks. Moreover, with growing tensions between global powers, Africa's strategic location could make it increasingly valuable, especially for military and intelligence operations. A unified Africa would be well positioned to capitalize on this, but would need to invest heavily in infrastructure and security to manage the complexities of such a role. Economic potential. As of 2025, Africa's combined nominal GDP is expected to range between $2.39 trillion and $2.83 trillion United States dollars, representing a significant portion of the global economy. With a unified market and a larger labor force, a united Africa could stimulate economic growth. A larger unified market would allow for increased trade within the continent and attract foreign investment. Additionally, a strong focus on manufacturing and value-added industries could help diversify economies and reduce reliance on raw material exports. However, reconciling different economic systems, currencies, and levels of development among the current African nations would be a complex task. Overcoming infrastructural disparities and fostering cooperation between previously independent states would also be essential for achieving substantial economic progress. Challenges to unification. While the idea of a unified Africa holds potential benefits, it also comes with considerable challenges. Differences in language, culture, religion, and political systems across the continent could hinder the creation of a cohesive national identity. The sheer size and diversity of Africa, encompassing various ecosystems and climates, further complicate the prospect of effective governance from a central authority. For example, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the second largest country in Africa, is nearly as big as the continental United States, and Nigeria, the most populous nation in Africa, is larger than 100 million people, more than the entire population of France. And yet, somehow they're both part of the same continent. Furthermore, ensuring equal access to resources and opportunities for all citizens across such a vast and diverse continent would be a monumental task. Addressing regional disparities and historical grievances would be crucial for the stability of any unified African state. Health concerns. Africa faces significant health challenges, including a high prevalence of HIV/AIDS and limited access to quality healthcare in many regions. Creating a unified health system would require substantial investment and coordination to ensure equitable access to essential medical services for all citizens. Overcoming cultural barriers to healthcare and providing adequate training for healthcare professionals across the continent would also be essential. Language diversity. Africa is home to approximately 1,200 different languages, posing a major challenge to national unity. Effective communication is vital for the cohesion of any country, and linguistic diversity can create significant barriers. Choosing an official language or creating systems for multilingualism would be crucial. Investing in language, education, and promoting cultural exchange could help bridge linguistic divides, but would require significant resources and time. Can Africa really become a superpower? While the concept of a unified Africa with immense population, abundant resources, and strategic location holds promise, it's essential to recognize the tremendous challenges associated with unifying such a diverse continent. Overcoming issues related to healthcare, infrastructure, security, economy, education, and governance would be monumental tasks. Furthermore, Africa's current political landscape, marked by numerous independent nations, makes the idea of unification seem distant. Each country has its own leadership, institutions, and interests that may not easily align with a larger continental vision. It's important to acknowledge that Africa's strength lies in its diversity and individual nations. Rather than focusing on a hypothetical unified state, supporting the development and cooperation among existing African countries is crucial. Promoting peace, stability, and good governance within each nation, as well as fostering regional integration through organizations like the African Union, will be key to unlocking Africa's potential. Africa's rise on the global stage. Instead of aiming for a single massive African country, efforts should be directed towards helping individual African nations achieve stability, prosperity, and self-sufficiency. Supporting democratic institutions, promoting human rights, and investing in education, healthcare, and infrastructure within each country will be vital. Additionally, fostering cooperation among African nations through trade agreements, joint infrastructure projects, and peacekeeping missions can strengthen the continent as a whole. Ultimately, Africa's future lies in the collective development and collaboration among its diverse range of nations. While the concept of a unified African superpower may be appealing, it's important to recognize the practical challenges and the potential for harm. Focusing on real-world solutions that address the unique needs and strengths of each African nation will be crucial for the continent's rise as a major global player. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And please don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss out on more interesting videos.